Hey everybody, welcome to College Town Talk. I'm Jonathan Frank.
And I'm Shan Stout.
Shan, we've been doing this podcast for a while now. I do not have an athletic bone in my body.
Well, you did once say in an interview that the basketball team had scored a touchdown.
Anyway, it takes a lot to get me interested when it comes to sports, but our next guest has done it. She is a proud Tennessee Tech alumna and is the founder and executive director of Game On Accessible Tennis, which is an amazing local nonprofit offering free tennis programming to children and adults of all disabilities and skill levels. And of course, we're talking about Melinda Mott Leftwich. And Shan, I had the chance to speak with Melinda earlier this year for a written story that we did from the university, and she is truly one of the kindest people I've ever interviewed. Her passion for tennis is contagious, and she is so motivating. She makes me feel like even I could be the next Robert Federline.
Jonathan, do you mean Roger Federer?
Same difference.
Well, anyway, let's start this interview before you butcher any more sports teams. Melinda, welcome to College Town Talk.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Now, Melinda, we're so happy to have you here today, and I want to start by asking you about your journey with tennis, because this is such a big part of your life that some people might think you've been playing the game since you were a child, but really, it started in earnest for you in your mid-40s. Is that right?
That is absolutely true, and I am living proof that it's never too late to pick up a sport, and you can teach an old dog new tricks. And actually, I proposed that the three of us should go and play doubles with Awesome Eagle as our fourth.
Okay, well, I'm on your team because I've seen Jonathan try to play sports in general.
Yeah, I think Awesome Eagle would do better than me, even in the mascot costume.
Well, that's good because he's on your team.
Well, Melinda, I'm always fascinated to talk with people whose profession today is maybe different than what they studied in college, but maybe not as unrelated as one might think. You were a child development major, but you and I spoke previously about how that shows up in your work today. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I think it's a really natural fit. And child development and psychology are actually pretty closely related, and we had to take some psychology and also sociology. And in addition to child development, we also studied human development, which incorporates all phases of life and all ages. So we learned about developmental milestones and meeting someone where they are in their development. So all those things really help when you work with people with disabilities, especially when you're trying to help them learn something new and you understand that there may be limitations that you're working within, but there's always ways to adapt and make things possible.
Well, I'm going to tell you, for people who don't know my story, I have a heart for anyone with special needs of any kind, any sort of barriers. And recently, the Visitors Bureau has done a program called Waterfalls for All, and we call that Breaking Down Barriers of Mobility and Access. And that way, anyone that has any sort of barrier, we're trying to find a way that a whole family, a whole group of people can go and share an experience together no matter what they're going through in forms of a barrier. And you know, my story, I was born blind. My grandfather was in a farming accident where he lost the use of both of his legs. I have two autistic nephews. We have a lot of disabilities throughout our family and our stories. And so I've tried to be a big supporter of the special needs community in any possible way. And so I love what you're doing here. Game On Accessible Tennis has been your vision and passion from the beginning, but I know you've had some special people who helped you along the way, including the former Tennessee Tech head tennis coach and many of the student athletes. So this is wonderful that it is a village of people that is supporting this. Can you talk about some of the friends and supporters who have showed up for you as you've brought your vision for this to life?
Going back to me starting tennis in my mid-40s, I have a big learning curve. So I know that what I don't know is much larger than what I know. And so I have to surround myself with people who have the answers. And so one of my best mentors has been William Taylor. He's the head pro and the director of racket sports at Fairfield Glade. And so I started out taking tennis lessons from him And then as I started getting more involved in community tennis and I got the opportunity to coach, and I wasn't confident about doing all these things.
Now, again, this started in your 40s.
Yes, and he encouraged
alone
me.
is a story of inspiration for women and men.
It's a whole new chapter, really, and it came at a great time in my life where my parents were elderly and their health wasn't good, and I was under quite a bit of stress. So all this has helped give me something else to focus on, help me manage my stress, help me make a whole network of friends that I never would have met except through tennis. And so William Taylor is one. There's a person named Jim Ham who is the chair of the USTA Southern Adaptive Tennis Committee, and he has been wonderful to me. He's shared all kinds of resources, and he and William Taylor both have really pushed me outside my comfort zone, encouraged me to do more than I thought was possible, and made me believe I could do it, and then I tried to do it. So, and then my family, I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, but one of my brothers passed away. But my 3 siblings were all graduates of Tennessee Tech, and my brother Jim and my sister Betsy are 2 of my biggest cheerleaders. I text them everything I'm doing and pictures, and they're always cheering for me, even though they don't live here in Cookeville. So those, and then I have lots of local friends and volunteers who help me coach. And it takes a village, and it's going to take an even bigger village, because I anticipate that programs like this are going to help give us exposure that will give us more athletes, and therefore we're going to need a lot more volunteers.
Well, that's our goal here.
And you've talked about how you found this great community of friends and fellow athletes and people that have helped your nonprofit. But I remember when you and I chatted previously, you also mentioned how it was a little challenging to kind of break into the tennis community at first. And I don't know, kind of felt like there were some sort of gatekeepers there that were thinking, who is this new person? And that you had shared gave you a passion for inclusion. You didn't want anyone to feel excluded, because I think you had felt a little excluded at first. Can you just elaborate on that?
I think it's been, tennis in general was a country club sport, and a lot of people didn't have access to tennis. If they didn't have a country club membership or they didn't go to private summer camp, it may not have been taught, and different ethnic groups have never been exposed to tennis, historically. And so I feel like it's our responsibility to bring tennis out to the masses, to everyone of every ability, because it's such an adaptable sport. And yes, that's true. When I first started, there weren't many beginners. I was really one of the only ones, and I was in my mid-40s. So I really didn't fit the demographic. And so I tried to create activities for other beginners and get some other people who are at my level, so that people would invite me to play and include me. So
you developed this world of inclusion based on your lack of inclusion. I mean, like, you were being disincluded in some sort of way. You didn't fit in initially, and you probably did not have the skill sets enough to be able to be included with people that have been playing a long time. So this has really been a blessing for you.
And it's funny because I went to these clinics, and William Taylor was the one who led the clinics, and they were Friday clinics for all levels, but I was the only one who was a beginner. Everyone else was experienced. And this group of guys took pity on me because they saw that no one would play tennis with me. So they invited me to play tennis with them. And one of them is a professor at Tennessee Tech, Robert Englehart. He teaches physics. Yeah. And one of them is Dave Likens, and he is a dear friend of mine. And those guys, and Larry Braga, whose son Matt is the baseball coach, those 3 and 2 other guys were the ones that originally welcomed me to tennis.
Well, and
I'm still in contact with all of them today.
I think that's wonderful. And I'm going to say, I call these the rules of kindergarten playground social skills. Sometimes people don't learn those rules. They don't learn to include the other children and look for the outlier who is just waiting for someone to invite them in. And I was a very shy child, believe it or not, growing up, and I was the one that was always waiting for people to invite me. I wouldn't just step in and just join the group. And so even as adults, I think a lesson can be learned here about including others and paying attention to who might be disincluded. Don't be so self-involved that you don't notice. But you have turned this into helping people of all abilities and disabilities enjoy sports, and obviously you have had some mentors.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to talk about the colleagues that are helping you kind of bring that about, because you got a great board of directors, and I know a couple of these people. I want to shout out my friend Margot Dirksen, who's on your board and works at Tech in our Office of Access, Belonging, and Community Outreach, and Matthew Beal, your coworker, Shan, at WCTE. Wish you were here.
What a great guy.
Matea Trusty, who's a recent Tech graduate, and I met her at our Eagleworks competition. And so many just great personalities, and I think all share, from what I know of these people, and Matea and Margot and Matt. I mean, they share your welcoming, spirit, passion for inclusion, making everybody feel like they belong. So how did you kind of assemble that group of people? Did you have names in mind, and you said, I'm going to approach them? Was it kind of an open call? How did that work out?
No, I had a plan, and I was trying to get people from different fields. So I really wanted someone who had a banking background. So I asked Jonathan Medley, who works at One Bank, and I believe he's a Tech graduate. I'm not sure if he's a Tech graduate, but I know he loves Tech athletics, and he supports all the sports. And I was hoping to get someone with a legal background, just to have as an advisor, not to do work for us, but because we're trying to form a 501c3 and it's pretty complicated.
Oh, yes, very smart.
And so a friend of mine actually connected me with one of our assistant DAs, Jessica Krebs, and she's wonderful. She prosecutes cases all day long, so this is a different scene for her. And I think it's nice for her to see some of the positive things that are happening, because in the legal world, there's a lot of hard things happening. And we also have two parents, Melissa Allen and Jacqueline Sliger, and their children are some of our athletes. And I have Mac Williams, who used to work for Aging and Disability. Now he's gone out on his own. And I have Sherry Roberson, who's the head of special education for Putnam County Schools. And Matt, as you mentioned. And then actually we're welcoming a new board member, and I just got confirmation from her, and her name is Cynthia Medley. It's Jonathan Medley's sister, but she has a background with adaptive sports.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're really excited.
It's an all-star team.
Yes, and she works at Cookeville Regional. So I shot for the moon, and I really found amazing people, and most of them didn't know each other, but we've connected well, and it's a great group. I feel so like fortunate.
Tennis Avengers Assemble. This is a power play of a roster. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Well, and I have to say, I was talking to Margot last week. I was sitting in her office. We had just had a SOAR for our incoming freshmen, and we were talking, and she was just sharing with me about how gratifying it is to be on your board. And
that's nice to hear.
How much she's really enjoying it. So
thank you.
So, Melinda, what was it about tennis that you thought was so well suited to your mission of helping people of all abilities and disabilities enjoy sports?
Well, if you've ever played tennis and you played full court tennis with a bright yellow tennis ball that was super bouncy, then you haven't really experienced all the different kinds of tennis you can play. So it's a really accessible sport, more so than any other sport that I can think of, because you can use 4 or 5 different kinds of tennis balls that bounce. They're less bouncy or more bouncy depending on the ability of the person hitting it. So if someone's footwork isn't as strong, you give them a ball that doesn't bounce as much, and that gives them more time to get to that ball. You may give them a shorter racket, put them on a shorter court. We can use tape and drop down lines to make courts smaller, so that it's easier to cover that whole court. We can give someone a unified partner, who's a tennis partner who doesn't have a disability, who can assist in keeping score, help make sure that the shots they hit are going to the athlete at the right pace with the right speed that's in their wheelhouse, that they'll have a good chance of hitting it back and keeping the ball in play, which is what everyone wants to do, because that's the fun of tennis.
Absolutely.
Keeping a rally going. And so I think that makes tennis really special, because if you think about basketball, there's one size of court, there's one basketball. You can modify the height of the, basketball hoop. But with tennis, you'll see people who have or don't have disabilities all the way up into their 80s playing tennis. And so it grows with you. And even as you get older, if your mobility is limited, either by age or by some type of accident you've had, or possibly by disability, you can still play because you can have good strategy. You can have more precise shots that keep you competitive with someone else who maybe their footwork is better, but your strokes are better. And so it's a really adaptable sport. Plus, it's very affordable. We're so fortunate in this community that we have Tennessee Tech courts open to the public other than when the Tennessee Tech men are playing a match or practicing. And so those are first come, first serve, and you see them in use full time.
All the
time.
Yes.
They're very busy, except in this heat. And then we have 6 courts over at Cookeville Community Center owned by Parks and Rec. We have 2 courts in Allgood, also free. There's 1 court in Baxter, and there's a court in Monterey. So our community is pretty loaded with tennis courts. We're very fortunate. Most of the communities in this region are lucky to have 1 or 2 tennis courts, and they may or may not be in good repair. Sparta and McMinnville have the best tennis courts in this region after Cookeville.
I learned so much from Melinda the first time we spoke about that. I have to say, I had no idea that there were different kinds of rackets and different kinds of tennis balls. I'm thinking that if they had one that is about the size of a large beach ball, I think then I could make contact with the ball from my racket.
That's your level of modification.
Yes.
I can see about getting one of those.
Yes, please, can we? Melinda, I know you've got big aspirations for Game On's future, too, and you and I have spoken about this. Can you give us a little preview of some of those future hopes and plans?
Yes, we really hope to add wheelchair tennis, and I'm looking for athletes right now. So if you know of someone or you're someone who's a wheelchair user and you're interested in trying to learn the sport, this will be grassroots. This is not high level intensity. This is just starting out. We'll be learning together because I have taken a wheelchair coaching course. So I have a level 1 certification, but I'll be learning alongside any of my wheelchair athletes, and I'm sure they'll be teaching me more than I'll be teaching them. And then hopefully we can add para-standing. That's tennis for people who, you get 2 bounces, but it's for people who may have artificial limbs, or they could have a severe form of arthritis, different reasons that someone doesn't need to use a wheelchair, but they may need to be accommodated by having 2 bounces. But otherwise, the rules for tennis are the same, and the matches are amazing if you ever get a chance to watch. Also, blind and visually impaired, or blind and low vision tennis is a training I'm going to attend in Birmingham next weekend, so that people who have low vision use a ball that has a bell inside, and so you have to rely on the sound. So that court has to be really quiet so that someone can hear. And so I'm learning from the lead coach in the field in the U.S. That's who's teaching the training in Birmingham next weekend. And actually, I'll be taking 2 other people from Cookeville who are interested in helping learn to coach. And then we're taking 1 athlete who wants to learn how to play.
These are lofty goals in action. They're happening right now, Jonathan. These are not future goals. You are working toward them this very moment. This is wonderful news. This is a wonderful opportunity. And for our listeners, if you know someone, if you are someone, or if you are a caretaker of someone with any sort of special needs, mobility barrier, whatever, this might be a wonderful opportunity for them to get out and find a new hobby that would be good for their health.
Well, and it's completely free to them, which I love about what you do, and it reinforces for me that anything is possible. I would not have thought that maybe a blind person could safely enjoy a game of tennis, but you're going to show them how, and it makes me feel like I've got no excuse, Shan. I'm going to have to get on the court.
It's amazing.
I'm going to have to pick up a racket. I'm going to have to learn.
Let's set the
Melinda
date.
can teach me.
Okay.
Well, anytime you can participate in a group that all have the same mission for such a great cause. This is a definite underserved community that you are working with. I don't know if you're aware, but the Visitors Bureau here for Putnam County, we're actually working on a 5-year plan to make Putnam County the most accessibility-friendly community in Tennessee. So that is part of our long 5-year goal. We are working with various special needs groups. We've got our Waterfalls for All program so that we can build in bringing in accessible people to vacation here with their families, and also everything from our Airbnbs to our attractions to our restaurants, and even making them pet friendly, which is an accessibility issue for people who have pets. So any accessibility barrier of any kind, we're trying to be very, very aware and very, very thoughtful in making modifications. And so all of our small businesses are on board, and every quarter, we say, what's one more thing you can do to make your business more accessible? And sometimes they're removing rugs so that there's not a tripping hazard or wheelchairs can go through freely. Sometimes it's making their aisles wider, things like that. So I love the fact that there is this program that is just one more way that we are able to include everyone in our community together to be able to participate. So, Melinda,
that's amazing. I'd love to be part of that in any way.
Listen,
I'm
already
there.
on my list.
Thank you.
I have got your number. And we are just thrilled to have you today on our podcast. But at the end of the podcast, we always ask each guest the same question. What is one way that Tennessee Tech has impacted your life?
Well, I tell people probably at least once a week, I tell someone that I probably would not have stayed in Cookeville if Tennessee Tech wasn't here. I think Tennessee Tech just brings a different energy. It brings a diversity and intellectual people from all walks of life, from all over the world, students from all over Tennessee and the Southeast and the U.S. and the world. And I just like how it changes our community. I think our arts community is a good example of the impact of tech on a small town that wouldn't have a symphony, that wouldn't have as many programs for the arts and plays and concerts. And it makes our community so much richer. And that's one of the ways that I think tech impacts me daily and really keeps me here in this town.
And for our listeners, you can learn more about Game On Accessible Tennis at gameontennis.org. And don't forget, you can catch up on previous episodes of this podcast at tntech.edu/collegetown talk.
And one more thing before we go. If you're enjoying our show and hearing from inspiring Golden Eagles like Melinda, would you do us a favor and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get this podcast? It all helps to spread the word about the great things happening right here in Cookeville.
We'll meet you back here again next week for more conversations with the people who make Cookeville Tennessee's college town. College Town Talk is presented by Tennessee Tech University in partnership with the Cookeville-Putnam County Visitors Bureau. Your hosts are Jonathan Frank and Shan Stout, and original music is performed by Andrew Buckner. Visit us online at tntech.edu/collegetown talk.